Okay, I'm gonna put them right there. Okay, that's my audience, Grandma and Grandpa. All right, my name is Victoria Panachek, and my speech will be informative. I hope to make everybody realize how much dating and marriage has changed since 1960. I'm calling my speech A Relationship in 1960 versus Now. Have you ever wondered what dating and marriage was like years and years ago? Well, I am here to tell you what it was like. As we already know, marriage has a long history. In 1960, marriage happened at a young age. In 1960, 72% of all adults ages 18 and older were married. Kind of crazy to think about. 72%, that's a high number. Today, just 51% are. 22% of people were divorced in 1960. The baby boom. Let's talk about the baby boom really quick. The baby boom in the U.S., the increase of the caused increase in the birth rate from 1946 to 1964. Also, the generation born in the U.S. during that period. Um, so this was because of like the hardship and the uncertainties of the Great Depression and the World War II. Led to many couples delay in marriages, which having a delay in marriage caused a delay in having children. Alrighty. How people met one another without having access to dating websites like we do now. People would meet one another through their friends, work, school, and also drive-in movie theaters. Fast forward to our generation. If you are seeking a relationship, we have technology to help us, such as apps. For example, Hitch and Tinder. Two people may meet at a bar, a party, through people, kind of like in 1964, meeting people through your friends. But then even before 1964, which is kind of crazy, if you were dating a guy, or if two people were dating, then you had to have a chaperone there. Could you imagine your parents standing there watching you the whole time? All right. Courtship was a big deal in 1960. Courtship was a big deal because women wanted to find a polite man for themselves. Courtship is a romantic relationship with views to get married. So they wanted to kind of hurry and bypass the whole dating, find somebody and then just get married. Of course, a gentleman. What dating looked like before the marriage. If you were a man dating a woman, you had to pick her up from her house and introduce yourself to her parents, pay for the entire meal, get her home before her curfew or on her curfew, just not a minute late. Okay, and if that date went well, let's say you guys had the best time ever, then you would call her the next day and ask her on another date. If you were a woman dating a man, the woman would have to have perfect hair and perfect makeup. She was expected to wear a nice skirt or a fancy dress. Women in the 1960s did not wear jeans or t-shirts on their first date. They were always like dressed to the T. Actually, they were dressed to the T even when they stayed home to care for the children and clean the house. They had their hair done, makeup done, usually skirts with tights. I'm sorry, I could not imagine having to be all dolled up to stay home to when I'm cooking and cleaning and caring for all that stuff around the house. All right. So if you were a woman dating a man in 1960s, of course, she would go home and tell her parents how the date went. And she would hope to get a call back if she liked you and had fun on your date. I am one that does not like to wear a skirt or a dress. So dating in the 1960s, well, I mean, obviously I wasn't born in the 1960s or the 60s period, but I could not imagine having to wear that on my dates. This is usually how I dress with my hair in a bun. Good to go. All right. Let's fast forward to 2000. Let's fast forward to 2000, right? How the rules have changed. The man does not have to come and meet the parents on the first date. The man does not have to have the woman home by her curfew given to her by her parents, because usually you are older when dating and you can make your own decisions and when you want to come home. If you were dating, you were usually responsible for yourself and your parents aren't. That goes back to you are old enough to date, you know when to get yourself home. Now that I have shared with you a little about dating before marriage, I'm going to talk about what marriage looked like in a household and what it looks like now. What a household with a married couple looked like in the 60s. In 1960, since a man and a woman would marry each other, you were not able to marry the same gender. That was not until year 2015 that the Supreme Court made it legal in all 50 states for a man to marry a man and a woman to marry a woman. The woman's role was to become a mother and a homemaker while her husband was working. Why women didn't work in the 1960s? Because that's what society told her to do. Society in the 60s, their role was to stay home, care for her kids, make sure the house is all beautiful and spotless and perfect. If a woman were to get a job, she was not treated the same as a man. The man would always make more money than her at the end of the day. During this time, women were to stay home and care for her children. And that is why women and men weren't treated the same, but we could go on and on about that later. Women were to strive for beauty, elegancy, marriage, children, and a well-run home. The women at the time were brought up only to become a mother and a homemaker. That is kind of sad to think about. Like, her only purpose in life was to run her house and care for her children. She couldn't do a lot for herself, and we will talk about that in a little bit. A woman was not able to get herself a credit card. Let's talk about that now, actually. So a woman was not able to get herself a credit card until she was married. So if you were a single woman, you could not have a credit card. And if you were a single woman, of course, not married, you couldn't even get yourself a college education until 1981. The question is, did women get married to have more freedom? A woman would plan her own wedding with the puffed up sleeves on her wedding dress. So those big puffy sleeves, shoulders with shoulder pads. It is very, very rare to see a bride wearing puffed up sleeve dresses now and planning her own wedding. Nowadays, we have wedding planners to help us out with everything, but in the 60s, the woman, she was planning her entire wedding and sometimes even cooking her own food to provide for all of her guests. All right, I have now shared with you what a typical household looked like with a married couple and even a dating couple in the 60s, and a little bit about how the household was ran. Marriage is an important institution which is changing, those being a significant part of our society. Yep, marriage and dating is a significant part of today's society. Bye.